Hello again, my dear viewers. This material will not be devoted to military operation, or rather, it will be devoted to military operation, but this will not be a review of event in Ukraine, or rather, it will be a review of a very interesting event. In fact, very strange event in my hometown. My native child asked a question: Dad, what is it? Are Russian troops really shelling a peaceful city just like that? Let me remind you, this afternoon the city of Sumy was subjected to some strange shelling. Different parts of the city, several strange ammunition flew in. This is Veritonovka, this is Belopolska and Annovka. And who knows the city of Sumy, he knows that this is one area. Moreover, in the Ukrainian media and in local publics, all this was presented as shelling with the hail. The shelling of the city of Sumy, a peaceful city, from a military point of view makes no sense for the Russian military to shoot there. But the strangest thing is not even that. Please look carefully at this photo, which was published by the witnesses of this incident. This is the tail of a 120mm mine. That is, a 120mm mine flew into the courtyard of the Sumy residential building. And now ask yourself a question. In Ukraine, the war has been going on for the third day. Has anyone seen the Russian armed forces use mortars? At least one. Moreover, if we look at how hysteria is blown up in social network about the shelling of a peaceful city by Russian troops, and I also remember that the so-called wandering mortars were used in Donbass when an ordinary truck drives through the city, stops, throws a couple of mines, and it goes on. And now let's take a closer to look at this area again. This is almost my native area. I lived in Kurskaya Street. I know this area like my own pocket. If somewhere here you install a 120mm mortar, even on a wandering frame, even on a stationary one, somewhere in the Urochishe, then no one will notice it except for those who are nearby. And now no one is there, because people are all afraid. No one goes to the Urochishe at this time of the year. And given the effect this event had, I have a question. Maybe it was a provocation to the inhabitants of the city of Sumy against the Russian military. It's all very complicated. Once again, the Russian military has not yet been seen firing mortars anywhere, but this is a very convenient weapon for provocation. These are easy to hide, easy to transport, easy to provoke. Moreover, the traces of this provocation were captured by the residents of the city. I appeal to the people of my hometown. Today we have a lot of fakes. There are a lot of people who want to quarrel us so that we fight each other until the end of our days. Moreover, this technology was already been documented and used in the Donbass by Ukrainian nationalists. These nationalists are holding my hometown today. As my relatives told me from the city, this all coincided in time with the announcement of an air trade alert. That is the first an air raid was announced in the city that supposedly Russian troops were going to shell the city with the hail, while the hail shot was not documented. There was no hailstorm in the city of the Sumy, but they fired as we see from the evidence. With ordinary mortar mines. So the air raid command was given by the headquarters of Civil Defense of Territorial Defense of the city of Sumy. Here you have all the strings and converge to one note. So far everything say precisely that someone who has very good connection in the territorial defense of the city of Sumy deliberately planned all this. And for some reason it seems to me that this is the work of those people who think that the inhabitants of the city of Sumy are not very actively support the resistance to Russian troops, and they do everything in their power. They use methods that they have already used in Donbass in order to piss off ordinary residents of Ukraine, and in this case my mother town. I really want to all honest journalists who watch this video to post it in all possible publics. And my dear countrymen, my beloved resident of the city of Sumy, I want to ask you not to succumb to provocation. I understand that your emotions are now overflowing, but so far everything suggests that this is precisely to so-called our native territorial defense, or those people who stand behind it deliberately fired mortars and the city of order to provoke you to respond. Be careful.